Pokemon has followed a trend with its Switch releases, sending out a base game, a small DLC, and a larger one. With Sword and Shield, the Isle of Armor was neat, but we really wanted the Crown Tundra, and the same can be said with the Teal Mask and Blueberry Academy with Scarlet and Violet. And that DLC's been out for a while. I wanted to wait until they released the epilogue update before trekking through it. Now that it has, here is my review of the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC, the Indigo Disc. The story of Indigo Disc has the protag being an exchange student heading to the underwater Blueberry Academy in the Unova region. This is the region Pokemon Black and White took place in on the DS and is where Carmine and Kieran from the Teal Mask DLC are enrolled. The exchange program has you joining a battle club at the school to tackle its own twist on the Elite Four challenge and venture to a new part of Area Zero to discover a new legendary. Now, as a story, I would call it good in some bits and okay in others. I liked the Academy story, and the epilogue combining the main story and DLC characters together for a little adventure was a fun way to end the Scarlet and Violet plotline. Though the new Legendary story we didn't get much of outside of a post-game quest to tie it to the main story of Scarlet and Violet, and to be honest, for something called the Indigo Disc DLC, the actual Indigo Disc doesn't really show up that much. Now let's get to content. The first thing to note when team building is that all battles of the Indigo Disc are double battles. That means users of moves like Earthquake, Surf, Zap Cannon, and the like will have to create strategies for double battles to not hurt their own Pokemon when fighting others. And speaking of team building, we have some new Pokemon showing up like the new Legendary and variants of old Pokemon. And as far as who is returning, we got a lot back, but not everything. Not even all legendaries returned. You can get Pokemon like Lugia and Deoxys, but Genesect, Melmetal, and the legendaries of X and Y are still unavailable. Even the Ultra Beasts didn't return, despite Indigo Disc bringing back Solgaleo, Lunala, Necrozma, and their fused variants. We're also missing a lot of non-legendaries. We got all of the starters in the Porygon line back, but no Pidgey, Togepi, or any of the Galarian forms outside of the Kanto bird trio. But one fantastic addition is Meloetta, the Psychic Diva Pokemon that's been event exclusive since its introduction in Generation 5. Something that I honestly didn't even know was a thing until I made a Mew VMAX deck in that card game, and the Meloetta Fusion Strike card was a good supporter for that. In the prior games, you weren't even allowed to transfer the Pokemon Go event Meloetta through home. But not only can you now transfer that event version into Scarlet and Violet, but you can catch Meloetta in the wild in this new DLC by going to a certain place and spinning around as her song plays. Since its introduction 12 years ago, Meloetta has never been available in the wild outside of a limited time event. Anyways, let's talk content. Indigo Disc added a new school consisting of a few facilities like shops and classrooms, and a new open world map in the Terrarium. This is a gigantic area consisting of 4 different biomes where Pokemon roam around and trainers hang out. Not as big as the map from the base game, but a lot of area you can explore with fast travel points to unlock facilities for healing and making TMs, and makeshift gym areas for the DLC's Elite Four. And that brings us to the main story. Your task here is to challenge the Elite Four to become champion and travel to Area Zero to meet the new legendary. I do find this a bit interesting, especially the Elite Four. Instead of running a gauntlet, they function like gyms. There is one in each of the biomes of the Terrarium, and you do trials like the gyms of the main story. They were clever with one of these challenges as well. It's common knowledge many people bring back their level 100 legendary or competitive teams to plow through the DLC campaigns. But one of the Elite Four's trial requires you to fight with only Pokemon you've caught in the Terrarium, forcing you to use something you found within this DLC. And really, that is the main part of the story. You do travel to Area Zero for a bit and back to Kitakami for the epilogue, but most of your trek will be doing the Elite Four challenge and exploring the Terrarium. But the real charm of this DLC is what it added to the gameplay rather than the plot. We got a ton of quality of life additions and features that personally I think would have served the main story a lot better if it was there from the get-go. There are passive missions to do in the Terrarium, like catching or taking pictures of Pokemon that get you BP, the Academy's currency. This is used for challenging the Elite Four, enhancing the Terrarium with features like new Pokemon and customizing your throwing style, but it's also used in the school shop. This lets you buy items with it, including TMs. You don't need to grind for materials for core moves anymore. If you want Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Psychic, or Thunderbolt, you can just buy them. And this quest system is great. You can do it by yourself or in Union Circle co-op for much greater rewards. These are also tied to the new legendary encounters, you getting candy for hitting milestones to encounter certain legendary Pokemon within the game. Though it is worth noting that the Union Circle co-op feature is required for some of these. A few legendaries like Necrozma can only be obtained through group quests, and you can't play Union Circle with randoms. You're always forced to have a link code, so if you want something like Dawnwing's Necrozma, you need a friend to play with or a community like Reddit to pair with someone until you get the candy item you need. It's also a little odd that the DLC's epilogue can only be accessed via a mystery gift item. While it was said that the item would be indefinitely available via mystery gift, it just seems like a recipe for disaster with adding a story-based item into a feature that's meant for limited time events. The other great quality of life feature is flight. The post-game of Indigo Disc will give your travel Pokemon the ability to fly without restrictions. No gliding, but actual flight in any direction forever. And unlike the sync feature that lets you play as your Pokemon in the terrarium only, this flight mechanic can be used anywhere from the terrarium to the main map in Paldea. And that brings us to content and length. I got to the end of Indigo Disc after playing for around 15 hours, though there was a lot of exploration in that. I would put the actual questing of the expansion to be around 10 hours, and 5 were me just exploring and team building. Also, as you may have expected, the performance of the base game hasn't improved. You will still get a fair number of frame drops and slowdown as you play the Indigo Disc. In conclusion, the Indigo Disc brings the story of Scarlet and Violet to a close. Now, on the downside, a lot of the story was just okay, and a lot isn't explained as it should have been. You still can't get all previous legendaries, and some of the ones you can only obtain with Union Circle. But if you've got a buddy for Union Circle and enjoy little challenges and quests in games, it's a lot of fun to fly around the new map, and it's incredible to finally have Meloetta obtainable outside of events. Reviews to Go rates the Indigo Disc for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet a 7.5 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.